Hey, practice owners. We are back for another edition of Coming Back Stronger. Pretty excited to have our guest on today, Rita Zamora, Rita Zamora Connections, who is, Rita is quarantining in Boulder, Colorado today. So how you doing, Rita?
I'm grateful to say that I'm doing well.
Yeah, you always show up well. You always present very well and look nice and put together. And I feel like I've been doing this for about 4 weeks, and my hair is getting longer, and I'm getting shabbier. And so we're excited to have you on. So if you could, kind of in the context of our coming back stronger idea here, share with listeners and viewers what you do, sort of your sandbox, and then how they can use some of your skills to help get themselves on track to come back stronger.
Yeah. Well, I've become known over the years as dentistry social media expert, but a lot of people don't know that I have a long background in dentistry. I, was a part of a dental family here in Colorado for about 15 years. I worked for a specialty practice and worked as a treatment coordinator. So I spent many years talking to patients about big perio and dental implant treatment plans, and helping to guide the patients through those troubling times when they needed to have extractions done, when we were talking about dental implant treatment that was scary for them, and talking to them about payment arrangements and kind of guiding them through that process. And I feel like a lot of that background in dentistry is coming back into play right now, because we have a lot of patients that are nervous and scared and have a lot of questions, and it's our responsibility as dental providers to sort of step into that leadership role and to really fine tune our communication, whether it's in person or on social media, because it's a communication tool more than anything else. And so I feel really grateful that I'm able to pull some of that history of working in the office as a treatment coordinator for so many years and helping to guide those patients, build trust with them, and bring that into the social media realm right now.
Yeah, there are a lot of, we bump into each other at dental events and that kind of thing. And there are a lot of people out there that just are sort of hypothetical. They've never really done it, but they've been around it, they've seen it, so they know all they need to know. And it is very different than when you're in the trenches and you're doing, you're interacting with the patient. It's one thing to say, oh, here's how you treat a plan, and you've never really done it. It's another thing to know that, all right, I said this, that didn't work, so don't say that again. I said this, and that really worked, so let me polish that a little bit. So I think that's one of the things that you bring, is the credibility that comes from that experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was one of my favorite jobs I've ever done, was being able to talk with the patients and, help to build trust with them and reassure them and encourage them to follow through with their treatment. And so I feel like we really need a lot of those same skills right now, because we are in such unknown times and things are changing minute by minute and day to day. And we're in a different place totally today than we were even a week ago, with practices now scrambling to figure out what they need to do to get ready to open their doors, in some cases pretty quick here. So
and that's really the how this came about. I felt like, what are we in the middle, April 22nd, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, we were so bogged down in what was going to happen. Was this PPP thing going to pass? What is the disaster relief SBA loan or grant, or what are all those things? And so what I want to do is get the vision out to, we're coming back. We don't know what day it's going to be. And we don't need to know that specifically. We just need to have a plan for the day we come back. And then what can we do up until that day that lays the groundwork for whatever happens, whatever PPE looks like, whatever, patient fears are, whatever that might be, there are some sort of fundamental things we can do to lay the groundwork for that. And in the context maybe of social media, I know that's sort of your area of expertise. What are some tips, or what are some hands-on tactical things a practice owner who's sitting at home and has an option of catching up on the last 3 years of Game of Thrones or whatever, or watching us and saying, that sounds great. Let me go out and do something and work on my business, work on my practice. A productive use of your time. What are some things you can share that would be really productive or beneficial right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the most important thing, and I see a lot of practices doing this, but there are still some practices that need help getting caught up, is to make sure that they're maximizing the opportunities that social media has to offer right now. Make sure that they're letting their patients know, if they haven't already, that they can receive the most up-to-date information on their social media, on their Facebook page. I think that's really kind of the go-to for a lot of patients, even though Instagram is very popular. But somehow Facebook is that go-to place for a lot of people when it comes to updates with regard to what's happening in their neighborhood. And, a lot of the US population now gets their news from social media. The recent statistics said that Facebook usage was up 30% in the last month or so. So there's a lot more people that are using Facebook. And so I think practices really, first and foremost, need to let their patients know you can get the most up-to-date, most current information on our Facebook page. Because you can use email and you can text patients, but you have that fine line where you don't want to text patients too much. And people don't always open their email, but they're spending a ton of time on social media. So I think make sure that you're letting your patients know that's where they can get the most current information. And then, of course, providing that current information, updating that information on a consistent basis.
What are some of the things, and this is a world that you and I live in, a lot of practice owners, they're seeing patients every day. So, they know they have a Facebook page, maybe, maybe they don't. It'd be a good thing that they start it. Or they, I've actually had docs, I would be at an event and I would say, you really need to find your social media voice and, Facebook, and they would look at me like, yeah, my kids look at that and I don't need to know what my high school girlfriend's doing right now. So there's no use for me. But Facebook has turned into a very strong new patient tool, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to find your voice there. So what if somebody doesn't, they have a page, but not really, and the last post was 2017? What should they do right now?
Yeah, well, I think whether they updated in 2017 or whether they updated last month, the most important thing is to make sure, again, that the majority of their patients, as many patients as possible, are following them on social media. This is a great opportunity right now because a lot of patients are home. So when we do get back to our new normal and people are back at work again and busy, it's not going to be as easy to get people to follow you and keep in touch with you in that way. So take advantage of that opportunity. Use your email communication to let patients know, and or your text communication to let patients know they can get the most current information on social media. And you'll get a lot of patients following you that way. When things settle down a little bit, there are other campaigns that you could integrate. You could possibly say, we're going to have, just a fun patient appreciation giveaway. If you follow us on social media, we're going to enter you in a drawing to win a $15 Amazon or an iTunes gift card. Okay. And you have to be careful about doing that on Facebook. There's specific rules that you have to follow there, but you have more freedom to do that on Instagram. So there's specific ways that you can word that, but you can make it fun. And people are, looking for a little bit of levity and, for something interesting and fun and light to do. So you can also introduce a campaign like that right now to get even more of your patients motivated to follow you on social media.
So you can put you're already emailing them and you can say, here's our situation. We're seeing only emergency patients, and you can put a link in there that says, or an icon just says, follow us on social media for more updates and that kind of thing. So you get those followers going, and this is probably a loaded question that scares the heck out of a lot of people listening. Should the doc do, video is huge, And I always, so when I bring that question or bring that up, you know, a lot of docs will say, all right, I'll get my agency, I'll get somebody in, they'll bring a camera crew, and, you know, they make it this big thing, like we're doing a commercial. You're not doing a commercial. You're doing you know, you're getting your iPhone out and you're doing maybe a quick little video in your operatory. Is that something you recommend doing?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm so glad that you brought that up because, in fact, it was just this morning, and some of the younger doctors and millennial, you know, dentists are going to say, I totally got that already. We've been making videos. I'm seeing a lot of dentists in their homes, in their kitchens, doing demonstrations in their bathrooms, showing how to floss, you know, with their kids and things like that. But I think for some of the dentists who have said, you know, I don't really want to spend time on that, it's for my kids, or I'm not interested, or I don't have time, or whatever, that are waiting to do something perfect. An example for them that I would say is if you watch something like the Today Show today, they're recording these programs from their home, and their audio is imperfect, their lighting's imperfect, their makeup is imperfect. I mean, they are just being totally authentic. And I just saw this morning, and it kind of made me chuckle because they were kind of talking over one another even. I mean, they clearly are trying to figure this out. And it's just great to see people as they really are in their own homes, you know? So I think now is the time to really explore those opportunities. Video, more important than ever today, because when people can see who you really are, it helps to reassure the patient, and it helps to reduce anxiety, and it helps to build trust. And that's really what we want. And that's what's going to be helpful for you when we do get back to our new normal, is to help, you know, keep growing those relationships and even establish new ones through what you're doing.
You know, it would be awesome for us to say, okay, here's a manual on how to explain to your patients what PPE is going to look like in the future. We literally don't know that. Here's a manual on how dental aerosols, you know, move around the operatory. We don't know any of that. And I think you just said it very well. I think the word that jumped out was authentic. It's okay to say, you know, listen, we're in this together. We're learning this, and I've done a little research, and we come back, you know, we're probably going to dress a little different. We're probably wearing surgical gowns, which I'm trying to think of who said this. And it was somebody that's, you know, way funnier than me, but said, you know, we realize we've been wearing scrubs all these years, and that's the, you know what, it might've been Gordon Christensen. He said the scrubs are the underwear of the surgeon, you know, the surgeon's underwear. And he goes, we've been wearing a gown forever. And now suddenly dentists, you know, we think we've invented this. But it's, you know, so it's something we should have done. We don't want to say that. But, you know, hey, this is what we're doing. So I think one of the things you don't want to do is say, okay, we're now implementing a bunch of infection control procedures. You want to say, we've always been conscious of infection control, but here's some new things we're doing, and we're adding because of this. And I think patients, I think the other word you said that jumped out at me was trust. They're going to want to trust that when they come to your practice, you know, they're not leaving with whatever it might be, you know, the virus of the day, but they're going to want to feel that trust that you're looking out for them and taking care of them. So is that the message? I think that, I mean, that's certainly one message I think you could be presenting right now, is just that, and be okay saying, listen, we don't know, but we're at least doing something.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think being as human as you possibly can, and at the same time, you know, stepping into that leadership role, because they are, you know, healthcare providers, they are doctors, you know, and so I think being confident in your communication is important. That's one of my business school 101, when we studied healthcare communication. One of the most important components of that education was making sure that you have really good communication. And when you're talking with patients, combine that with empathy, and that's going to help to build that trust. And those are unprecedented opportunities that we have with social media, to be able to show people our human side, and combine that with, you know, make sure that you have those reassuring messages for patients. So letting them know we've got you, you know, we've always been one of the cleanest, safest places for you to visit, and we're going to continue to, you know, maintain that environment for you. And, you know, letting them know what they need to expect that is going to be different is really important too. So you can't over communicate in a situation like this. That's the number one reason for a lot of healthcare lawsuits, actually, in the past, anytime, is poor communication. So we really want to make sure that we have good communication to reassure the patients, reduce their anxieties, and it's going to help in turn to increase their patient satisfaction. So it's a win-win overall.
So they're getting to know you and they're getting to trust you. And, you know, I was also thinking, and I had one here, this device right here. I've had people say it's going to be banned from the dental office in the future.
No touching of anything.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a restaurant the other day to pick up, and they had two little cups, and one said clean and one said used. And you had to get a pen, sign the paper, and stick it in there. And they watched, and everybody's gloved up. There are 1,000 little things like that we haven't even thought of. So
yes,
if you get comfortable with pushing that out on social media now and sharing that with an audience and letting your audience, your patients grow, and asking them to, you know, go to your Facebook page, like, and that's where you're going to share information. When you do this, say 3 weeks after we get back, and you know, the Colorado Dental Association says no more paper at the front desk or whatever it might be, you now have the ability to share that with your patients and say, listen, this is a smart idea, no more paper. Here's how we're going to do this going forward. You're going to get a little iPad or whatever it might be, but you're really laying the foundation for ongoing communication, not just crisis communication right now.
Yeah.
Developing good habits.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've got a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening as a result of this situation that we're in. You know, I think we're going to streamline a lot of these, you know, little things like not needing to use a pen and, you know, just streamlining things. And so I think we're going to see a lot of really interesting things that come about as a result of this. But what's not going to change among everything is how important our relationships are, and how important that trust factor is. I mean, that never is going to be, you know, I was going to say out of style, but it's such a core component of what we do. So we always have to remember that the biggest benefit of social media is the opportunity to build trust with people before they've even met you. And even for patients who know you and haven't seen you in a while, they want to be reassured that you're going to be there for them when they're ready to come back, or if they have an emergency or unfinished treatment or whatever. So sharing the human side, it's not easy for every doctor. There's a lot of things that you can do if you're not comfortable and you feel like you're more private. There are things that you can still do to share your human side without having to be in every picture, but that's more important today than ever before.
How about team? Would you recommend that the team be a part of posting somehow? And what would that look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And in fact, I've been seeing so many teams, they're either sharing their Zoom team meeting photos or pictures of the team, you know, what they're doing when they're social distancing at home with their families, or, you know, out taking a walk or with their pets. And so involving the team as much as you can. And, you know, I think most importantly, the doctor, you know, because they're the leader of the practice, and we want to include the team as well. But the doctor, it's a time to really push your comfort level if you're not used to being in photos or in video. If you can get comfortable with video, it's a practice like anything else. You gotta, as you know, I mean, we all started somewhere where we were like, oh my gosh, that video was terrible. But it's you, and you're being authentic, and you'll get better as time goes on. You got to start somewhere. And now's the time to push yourself out of that comfort zone while you have a little bit of time, and your patients really need that from you.
I think, Rita, that's a good point. You know, we've done I don't know, a cajillion hours of video at the Profitable Dentist and events. And I remember just a few years ago, we sort of made this transition where literally everything we did went to a production company, and they polished it, and they took out, me splashing something, or they took out, everything
Drinking
was
your
highly,
water.
yeah, everything was polished. And I think the world of social media has changed that. It's okay. I was doing one of these interviews the other day with a guy, and his cat jumped up on the desk and walked right across the computer in front of him. So about this much of the screen was his cat going like this. And,
That's awesome.
we just kept doing it. I've got more comments on, oh, the cat's cute and this kind of thing. And that really is just you being you versus worrying that you're not polished enough, or that this is, too overproduced. I think that might take away from some of the authenticity, you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're lucky because my dog has not barked. We didn't have a delivery during our interview, but yeah, there's just, and it is challenging, like I said, for a lot of mature dentists who aren't, they can't picture that, because if they're not spending a lot of time on social media, they can't imagine that a dentist would be making a video from their kitchen or from, outside in their front yard or whatever. But like I said, today you can even see examples of that on television and our local news channels. I'm sure across the country it's happening, where they're recording from their home. And it's really cool. I feel like it's taking us away from that very plasticized and overproduced, kind of Instagrammy situation where everything does need to be perfect and polished and everything else, and putting us into a situation where, this is truly my living room. It's not my virtual background, it's my real home, and we're just having a conversation. So I think it's a beautiful thing that we've gained in all of this, and I hope that we're able to carry some of that through. And so
I think also the idea of just doing it that first time might be a good, and you do this every day. Maybe you can kind of comment on this, but what made me think of it was I use Zoom, I don't know how many times a day. I've used it for a long time. And my family is scattered. My dad's in Florida. I have two sons who are Marines, and they're off, and we've got a kid in college, and we have them all over the country, and my brothers and sister, and so cousins and nieces and nephews. So I said, hey, let's do a Zoom meeting. So the kids, I have 5, and nieces and nephews, they were on in I don't know. They said, okay, they already had a Zoom app, and they've done it 1,000 times. My brothers and sister, it took a little while, and they figured it out on their own. My dad, who's 80 and lives in South Florida, we had to have 3 training sessions to get him up to the iPad, and make sure you turn it this way, and you can always tell when somebody, you're asking them to do something and they know they kind of want to do it, but it's really complicated, and they just would rather not. So we stuck with it. We had one a few Sundays ago at 4:30. And from that point on, now we have one every week. And my dad called and he says, can we do this every week? Like he did it once. He figured out what it was. He saw it. It's kind of a Brady Bunchy thing. And he realized that we could all be on there together. We could all be talking at the same time. And one of my nieces had just gotten engaged. So she shared that in a way that, she would have made, I don't know, 20 phone calls and instead. So now what happens is on Sundays, everybody kind of, they get a new puppy or whatever. They wait till then and then share it like that. But my point is, once you do it that first time and you're not so afraid of the technology, which is, I always say if my kids can do it, I can figure it out somehow. But do you find that once a doc who's a certain vintage, like me, once they do it once, it's kind of like, all right, this is neat. I see. Hey, there I am. I need a haircut. And they kind of get into the groove of it. And, after that first time just doing it, it becomes part of what they do and who they are.
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting familiarized with it. And we have a lot of dentists that we've worked with for many years that are just now getting on Facebook or Instagram because they have the time and they feel like they need to because everybody else is on there more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been walking through dentists on here's what the difference is between a Facebook profile and a business page and a group, and here's how Instagram works. And we kind of guide them through that. And we're like, okay, we showed you how to ride the bike. We showed you how the bike works. And once you get on and start pedaling, it's going to be easy for you. You're never going to forget how to use it. And so it's been really fun to see them, doing that. We just had I mean, I could just tell so many stories about it, but it is very rewarding I kind of feel like we're introducing them to a whole new world of opportunity and something they can use on a personal basis to grow those closer relationships with their family, but also, to bring back to their practice as they're getting back into practice. And when their patients come in and say, hey, I saw your picture or I saw your video on social media, they can respond and say, oh yeah, it's this, without having, that deer in headlights look saying, I don't know what my team posted about me. So
what is the difference? There's a profile and a page, a business page.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference and which one do they want?
Yeah, so it's good for them to have a personal profile, even if they don't want to interact a lot from a personal standpoint, but they get familiar with how things, work and what patients might be seeing and how things come across from a business standpoint. So they should have a personal profile, but for their practice, they should have a business page. And you can have the same on Instagram as well, a personal profile and a business account. And so you want to make sure you have a business account on Facebook and on Instagram. And those are the two big players. A lot of people still don't realize that Facebook owns Instagram, but those are the two most important platforms. And then depending on the specialty, you might want to dabble in LinkedIn and, or maybe spend a lot of time on there if you're a specialist. And then if you're a practice that's looking at, entertaining some of the younger population, then something like TikTok might be important today. So,
how do you invite somebody? Like normally your patients they're checking out, and you have tools to do that and say, hey, like us on Facebook here. And so, like today, what might be a couple ways that we could invite our patients, build a little audience, so to speak, and start to expand that following? Is there anything we can do right now?
Yes, I'm really glad that you asked that question, because I think for some people, their initial thought might be, oh, I'll just put up a generic message that says, like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram. And it's like, no, you don't want to do that. In fact, right now, like I said, you can take advantage of the opportunity where patients are home, maybe make a brief video, maybe from your kitchen or from outside on your patio or wherever you feel comfortable, and just say, hey, I just wanted to get in touch with you and say hello, and we miss you. And we wanted to let you know that we're going to do our best to keep the most current and up-to-date information on our social media, in particular on our Facebook page or Instagram, if that's their preference. And tell them, be sure you're following us on social media, because if there's anything new that we need to update you about, if you have questions you want to ask us, you can message us through there. And we hope that we'll see you on our social media. And then, if they wanted to kick it up another notch, they could say, we're actually going to do just a fun patient giveaway. We appreciate y'all. And, we're going to just surprise someone with a $15 Amazon gift card or whatever it is that they want to do, and say, we look forward to seeing you on our Facebook and our Instagram. And so making a short video like that, if the doctor's not comfortable with it, it could be the hygienist or the office manager or treatment coordinator or assistant. But take advantage of that opportunity. You're going to get a lot more people that follow you in that way. Or even if you don't want to make video, a photo that patients haven't seen before of you, just saying, I miss you or whatever. And then letting patients know in that way that, you want to make sure that you're keeping up with us on social media. And then following through with that and make sure that you're keeping up with your social media and avoiding generic messages, because it's never been more important for things to be personalized, because that's a core piece of that trust. So
how about a balance of, and I'm thinking like professional, again, and maybe your thoughts on scripted or unscripted. but professional stuff and then personal stuff. And what I'm thinking specifically is, we have a lot of friends in the industry. My buddy Dave Meadow every day posts what he's listening to on Dave's turntable. And, it's just what he's listening to on the turntable. And it's a picture and it'll be an album. And, Dave and I are kind of the same vintage, although I think now let me take that back. He's much older than me. But so it's albums, late 60s, 70s, I'm a little 70s into the 80s. But it's something that people think, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know he liked, AC/DC or whatever. Is there kind of your thoughts on a balance of professional and personal, and how personal?
Yeah, there's always a good guideline because, we in the dental profession like to have numbers and analyze everything. And so I always say, think about it as an 80-20 split. And 80% should be more social, and then 20% can be more clinical or more, when we get into our new normal, 20% can be a little bit more promotional, that sort of thing. But we're avoiding the promotional stuff right now because it's really all about relationships, and showing that we care about our patients. And so right now it's not a time for sales or promotion. Now is a time to build those relationships and share that human side with people, whether it's what kind of music you like or, patients never get tired of that. And dogs, cats, and babies tend to always do well. Those are still really popular topics.
My daughter says that, she sent me, like she said, a cat picture always gets somebody's attention, or you get the most likes on a cat picture or whatever. So it's okay to be, and that's a surprising balance. 80% more comfortable, social, get to know us as a practice, as your dentist, and 20% is, so you're not educating your patients or you're not selling, you're just letting them get to know you and get comfortable with you. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of examples of that, for, like I said, for doctors who aren't as comfortable sharing their human side. I'll give you a couple of examples. One of our doctors, it was very private, and he was like, I really don't want to be in pictures, do I have to? And I was like, well, we can't just post generic content for you. That's one of my ground rules. We absolutely won't work with someone that won't provide us some of that personalization. And so he started snapping a picture when he was out cycling. That was one of the favorite things that he loves to do still, is to get out and cycle. And here in Colorado, where I'm based, there's a lot of beautiful scenery. So he would just snap a picture and send it to us every week and say, here's where I was. And we'd share it with the patients, and they would say, oh, that looks so beautiful, or I didn't know you were into cycling. So it could be any type of a hobby, whether it's hiking, maybe you're into reading, or music, like you said, sharing what what you're listening to right now, or just sharing a little bit of what makes you you. And you'll be surprised how much you have things in common with your patients. And it's those connections. There's a lot of science behind this. It shows how important it is, even those little tidbits that you have in common with other people, that helps to really bind us together. And those connections can be magical through digital communication and through social media too.
And I think, given the fact that, and you may have different numbers. There's an older meaning a couple years, ADA study. It says 65% of people look for a new dentist online right now. That's their first go-to. And then, the majority of those pick based on reviews and how you look and how you make them feel when they look. So, somebody who might have spent a lot of money on Yellow Pages years ago and worked on how that ad looks, this is just the same thing, just, on steroids. They're gonna type in, best dentist in wherever for new patients. And then the retention of patients, they want to feel like you're more than just their dentist. I mean, they're dentists everywhere. Some of them may drive past 5 or 6 dentists to get to you. So that makes a lot of sense, wanting that connection and understanding that in this day and age, if you're not doing it now, this is where patients are, number one, finding you, and number two, sticking with you.
Yeah. And more than ever, like I said, that statistic, it was in the New York Times, I think just 2 weeks ago, that said the Facebook usage was up 30%. And Facebook, because they own Instagram maybe clumped in with that statistic, because Facebook is now reporting statistics as a parent company, not necessarily for Facebook and Instagram separately. So both of those platforms are still incredibly popular. So now, before you get into the practice, take advantage of that opportunity to, connect with your patients, make sure they're following you on social media, make sure you have someone on your team that's responsible for maintaining that communication through your social media platforms. Get organized with how you're sharing that communication. There are tools and systems you can put into place. I'm happy to help anybody out if they have questions, they want to reach out to me about how to be more efficient and effective with it. So
that's a good question, Rita. How would somebody get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, they can Google my name. I'm fortunate that my name is unique enough in dentistry that they can find my website, which is ritazamora.com. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything. I have my name for every social media except for TikTok and Snapchat. I missed the boat on those two.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's awesome. So any parting thoughts? We've got a lot of takeaways here, I can tell you. Any parting thoughts for some practice owner who's, been stuck at home and it's, they're really trying to they got Fox News on over here and CNN over here and, Netflix in front of them, and they have to decide what to do. And instead they're going to do what Rita says. They're going to say, all right, let me check myself out on Facebook, and they find out nothing's there and they decide to do it. Any kind of last minute thoughts to help them, get the whole ball rolling?
Yeah. Number one is make sure that you have some sort of a campaign that you're outreaching to patients to get them to follow you on social media. And that's not just the sticker, follow us. It's some sort of an organized campaign to be able to get as many of your patients as possible to follow you on social media now while you have that opportunity. And number two is look at your content, whether it's video or photos, and make sure that it is showing your human side. Make sure that it's personalized, because that is the only way to build trust with patients. That generic content that doesn't really represent the heart of your practice is not helping you right now. So reach out if you need help.
Something a big group could, send out to all, 443 markets they're in.
Yes.
It's, impersonal. So yeah, I hadn't even thought about that until you said that. It is a way to be, you can't be really warm, personal, and real and authentic if you're, a giant, corporate dental practice. They're deciding, they have corporate communications that sends that stuff out. So yeah, it is a way to stand out for a sole practitioner, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's more important than ever today. So.
Awesome. Well, Rita, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Taking some. I know you're awfully busy. You're kind of a high demand speaker, and I know you're kind of a road warrior too, I think. So this might be.
I was, yeah.
So you used to visit home, and now you're stuck at home, and I know I've talked to a lot of people who are just ready to kind of get back at it and get out there and get moving again.
Oh, I love my home. I do have to say, and you and I have spoken about how much I love Colorado. So it's not a bad place to be. And yeah, I'm kind of a homebody. So when I'm not out on the road, I'm in my happy place. So I'm good with my pets and my hubby, and grateful for what I have. So
awesome.
Miss you guys, though. I'll see you on the road at some point, I'm sure.
Yes, and it'll get back. And I think I always say, my wife has a great phrase about things like this. When you have a really bad day, or you had to do something you didn't like, or, whatever it is, you had to fire somebody or something bad happened. She always says, this is a day you never have to live over again.
Oh, that's good.
So I think this is a time, hopefully, this is a time we will never have to live over again. Hasn't happened before. I think no matter what happens, I think we'll handle things a little differently going forward. But I think this sort of came out of left field, and you have a chance to really work on your practice and thrive. I think maybe fix some things or attend to some things you should have all along. You're just now finding the time to do it.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome, Rita. Thanks for being on. And for practice owners, thank you for listening in. Rita Zamora Connections. And until next time, this is Steve Parker, Profitable Dentist Magazine. Hang in there and come back stronger.
Be well.
See you, Rita.